You have to know the times of prayer. Now, Sahaba didn't have watches. They told times by shadows. But if you use a watch, it should be a good one, like a Swiss watch. If you use a watch to determine the prayer time, which many of us do, right? We look on our watch and we see, oh, it's time to pray. We go pray. We didn't go check the shadows. The sunnah was to check shadows. So that is a ihdath. To use prayer schedules is a hadath. It's a bid'ah. But it's a bid'ah that's from the religion. It's minhu. And that's why it's permitted. If it's not from it, it's a bid'ah dalala. And that's an important distinction. So he said, أَن تَحْكُمْ عَلَى شَيْءٍ بِغَيْرِ حُكْمِهِ. It's to give a thing a ruling that is not its ruling. So to say something like the mawlid, to say that this is wajib, right? It's mandub to learn the seerah of the Prophet. The mawlid was one of the techniques that people brought later to teach people seerah. If you look at mawalid, they're basically seerah. You could literally call a mawlid a seerah. But to say that this is from the religion and this is that if you don't do it something, no, that now you've made it a bid'ah because you've given it a hukum that's not its hukum. الأحاديث إذا تعارضت ولم يعلم الناسخ من المنسوخ تساقطت ويبقى شيء على إباحته إذ لا يثبت حكم على مسلم إلا بدليل لا معارض له. This is a really important one. When you have hadiths that contradict each other, if you don't know the nasikh from the mansukh, in other words, the abrogating hadith from the abrogated hadith, then neither of them are taken. They lose their authoritative power to determine a ruling. And the thing is considered mubah. And then he says, because you cannot determine a hukum against another Muslim except with a dalil that has no objection. It has no... and this is why when there's a khilaf, he'll get into that, but this is a really important point. أقوال العلماء إذا تعارضت في أمر فقيل هو مشروع وقيل غير مشروع ما يكون هذا قط أحط مرتبة من المباح. If the ulama differ about an affair and they say, one says it's permitted and the other says it's not permitted, then ما يكون هذا قط, it will never be less than the ruling of permitted. Right? Because it's not mujma' alayh. The ulama have to agree on tahrim to say that it's haram. You can take the position of the one that says not to do it, tawarru'an, out of scrupulousness, but you can't expect that of others, even your own family. ما كرهه بعض الأئمة واستحبه آخرون ففعله أولى كرفع اليدين لأن الشرع يحتاط لفعل المندوبات كما يحتاط لفعل الواجبات. Those things that some of the ulama detested and others considered to be recommended, to do them is more appropriate. So if they differ about this is makruh or this is mustahab, then it's preferred to take the mustahab position, like raising your hands in dua. Because some say the Malikis traditionally did not raise their hands in the dua. Even though there's hadiths and some hadiths say hatta they could see the ibtay an-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But traditionally, and some of my teachers don't raise their, like Murabt al-Haja, I never saw him raise his hands for dua. So some take that position. But he's saying that in the hadiths are there, there's a difference of opinion, it's about mustahab, it's better to raise your hands in the dua. أجمع العلماء على اتقاء مواضع الخلاف. The ulama have agreed to guard yourself against these places of difference of opinion. Be very careful about these places of difference of opinion. الرؤيا من غير الأنبياء لا يحكم بها شرعا على حال. the Prophet ﷺ said that a true dream that a believer sees is 1/46th of prophecy. In other words, a true dream is part of prophecy, but the one having it is not a prophet, and therefore no legal ruling can be taken from the dream. Even in the books of fiqh about the prayer time, it says, لا اعتبار بكشف الولي. There's no consideration for the kashf of a wali could know right when the prayer time comes in and just say, دخل الظهر. Kashfan. But you can't use that like a watch. Because you can have dajajila, you can have people that aren't really awliya making these claims. So, but then he says, إلا أن تعرضها على ما في أيدينا من الأحكام الشرعية فإن سوغتها عمر بمقتضاها. So if that ru'ya does not go against the ahkam al-shar'iyya, then it's permissible to act according to it. So for instance, one of the great salihin or awliya might see in a dream where he's told to do a certain dhikr a certain number of times. He can do that. Because if it was a true dream, he could do it and it's part of the deen. But you can't make a legal ruling and say, oh, it's mandub to do this so many times. But if somebody understands that's a ru'ya, somebody saw Imam al-Kattani, and he mentions it in the book, saw that to do the 40 times Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, La ilaha illa anta, subhanaka. Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, La ilaha illa anta, 40 times before Fajr. He says that the heart won't die when other hearts die. So you'll find that done in some places based on that vision of the Salih. So that's what he says. But it's not a hukm shar'i. You don't take a hukm shar'i. But you can do a mustahab. Something, dhikr is mustahab, as long as it doesn't go against any amr or injunction from the Prophet. Al-bid'atu an tahkuma ala shay bi ghayri hukmihi. We already did that. حقيقة البدعة المذمومة هي التي تميت السنة أو تكاد تفضي إلى إماتتها. The reality of a negative bid'ah is something that causes the sunnah to die. It puts to death the sunnah, or it will lead to the death of the sunnah. So one of the things that is from the sunnah is dhikr. So as long as the dhikr is masnoona, it's permissible to do it according to, for instance, the way certain scholars have put together awrad. As long as those awrad are from the deen, you can do that from that, because that's the sunnah. So if you read Imam al-Haddad's wird, that's not the way the Prophet ﷺ did his wird as far as we know, because we don't have the details of how the order. We know some things, the order of some things, but not everything. But all those things that are put in there are from the sunnah. And this is true of a lot of these awrad. And then there are some awrad that are not acceptable, that some people put together. It's not permissible to use languages that aren't known, or to write magical formulas like in talismans and things like that. Stars and numbers and things like that, numerology, those things aren't permitted. النصوص الصريحة بالنهي في القرآن والسنة فيما هو وارد على ما في ملك الإنسان أنه نهي أدب أو إرشاد لا نهي تحريم. Many of the prohibitions in the Quran and the Sunnah that relate to the individual behavior are the nahi of adab and irshad. They're prohibitions of guidance and comportment. They're not prohibitions of tahrim. So there are many things where the nahi is in the hadith, but it's actually not for prohibition.